I hate it when this happens. My goodness. Okay, so I must apologize. I assume you can hear me now. Give me 1 second. We have a little microphone issue. It's a problem with doing it by yourself. You don't realize you're talking to yourself and therefore on mute. Hold on. There we go. Okay, now we're back. Yay! All right. Let's try this again. Hello, live TV. Oh, what fun. Anyway, so welcome. You're watching Own Your Wellness. I am Julianne Meyer, and this is our last time officially not on my network. Woohoo! So, as of Thursday, you will be seeing me under Achieve TV through E360 TV, my TV network on being distributed by E360 TV. I'm very happy to be a part of this family and moving forward, and it's all exciting stuff. So anyway, what we were going to be talking about today is surrender. And that is such a nails on the chalkboard kind of a word for a lot of people. I know for me, it always was, coming from the world of addiction recovery and, surrendering. I was like, listen, Linda, I don't think so. I'm not giving up. I'm not a giver upper, all this stuff. But what I didn't really realize is surrender means something completely different, and we can switch it into a positive. So, for example, yeah, you might be surrendering the war or something, but that's admitting that the situation is not in your favor. That is admitting to what is currently going on. That is not giving up. It's adjusting to what is actually present. We can sit there and we can wish that things were different all we want. Women do it all the time. Okay. All the time. So I'm going to give you an example. One of my friends, she went through this breakup, like, oh my goodness, it's probably been almost 2 years now. And she's still struggling with it. And, there are other circumstances. It wasn't just her and him and, just all this. And I don't want to give it away just in case somebody she knows is watching. But, she keeps fighting what is and wishing that things were different. And she keeps, and this is so normal. I've done it myself so many times. I have to catch myself doing this not on the regular, but on a regular basis. Not regular, once again. From time to time, I see myself not really accepting reality. Now, yes, we do get to create our own reality, but we also have to know where we are. We also have to be truthful with ourselves and with our situation as to where we are in order to change it. So I'm going to use the woman and man example because I'm a woman and I have so been this woman, and a lot of people can relate to this. So you get your heart broken, you're in this relationship, you get your heart broken, and you think that, you don't have closure because you're mentally obsessing over this person and, wondering where it went wrong, why they don't love you the way that they should. Why did they do this? Why that? And you think that if you get the answer that you want, that all of a sudden you're going to feel better. But here's the thing. What you really want is for whatever it was to not have happened. What you really want is to have this situation that's in your head be reality. That's what you really want. No matter what anybody says, it doesn't change what already happened. So that's kind of where surrender comes in. It's not giving up. It is acceptance. It is dealing with what is coming your way in order to make the best choices for yourself moving forward. Now, anybody would agree, I'm going to use this female example one more time to really drive the point. And that is that, here she is, like a year later, maybe even 2 years later, still thinking about this guy. And wouldn't it behoove her to have accepted things for what they were in order to move on? I know it's easier said than done. I'm not saying that her feelings aren't valid even. I'm not saying that your feelings aren't valid. I am just saying that by accepting things as they are and understanding that you're uncomfortable with it, understanding that you feel negative about it without trying to change it and mold it into something you prefer, that is surrender. Surrendering is living with what is, as is. I'm not saying you don't have the opportunity to change it and mold it moving forward, but I am saying it is accepting where you are right now, because ultimately all we have is this particular moment. And any reality that we are now experiencing is because of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions that we've taken in our past that have led up to this moment. So if you are unhappy with the way things are, then it's time to take a look at where you are and start looking into, where do I want to be? Okay. So that's part of it. Now, part of what like sparked my interest in talking about this, and I know that I've brought this book up before, but Michael A. Singer, The Surender Experiment, My Journey into Life's Perfection. Okay. If you guys have ever read The Untethered Soul, this is the same author. And this is actually his book, his story about, his life. And, when he wrote The Untethered Soul, he was going through what some people would, I mean, probably one of the worst legal situations you could possibly be going through. And it cost him millions and millions of dollars. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what does this guy have to surrender to? But he did. He surrendered to the moment. He experienced what was, and he looked within, and he decided, okay, is this how I want to be? And how do I want to show up in my life? And this is really what it is. So by really accepting what was going on was how he could even, talk about the untethered soul, which I know is kind of like off topic a little bit, but I really do love this book, The Surrender Experiment. I read it once. It's in line, because I always have a lineup. It's in line to read again, because it is so good. And it was such an eye-opening experience. I'm like, wow, I wish I could be that zen about life, right? Okay. So before we go to commercial, because we do need to go to a commercial almost already, right? I know it happens so quick. Anyway, before we go to commercial, I'm going to show you guys an announcement for my new network. But I also want to mention that when we come back from commercial, we're going to be talking about flow and how to get into that state, because surrender is part of flow, right? Okay, so let me show you what I got, and we'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I am Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and we've been talking a little bit about surrender. I know it's not a swear word. I don't know. There's something about it, just the idea of it, that what I had in my mind before was like nails on a chalkboard. It was like, oh, nothing's going to take my power away. But really, it is empowering to be able to surrender to the moment, surrender to the feeling, just allow it to flow through you. Allow the moment to flow through you, the emotions, the feelings, everything else to flow, because it's not intended to stop and stay that way. Life is literally flow from one moment to the next. Now, I'm going to say something a little controversial or maybe woo woo, depending on who you are. But a lot of times, we keep our issues in our tissues. So if we are, and that's not the controversial thing, if we keep smushing things down and not letting it flow through us, it's going to build up, and that negative energy is going to create something negative, because energy cannot be created. Here I say created, transmuted into something negative, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if you are not allowing things to flow through you and flow, then you cause a stoppage. Now think about water in the drain in the bathtub. You don't want it stopped up. You don't want your gutter stopped up. You don't want anything stopped. Think about your butt. Nobody, you don't want to be constipated either. Sorry, I had to. Anyway, so the controversial thing though that I was sorry, I distracted my own self. The controversial thing I was going to say was that it does sometimes not allowing things to come through us can create these negative situations, because we are not allowing what is. Now think about it. Every time you harp on something and focus on it, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get worse. It just lingers. And it actually can get worse, because you start spiraling with your negativity. Rarely does it get better and better and better. Now, the other thing on the flip side, before I forget, I do want to mention something to people that don't understand this. When you've been really excited about a goal, for example, and even working out, or I don't know, writing a novel or whatever, you're all pumped up and you get all the happy, warm fuzzies and all of these things. And then you get going and it sort of fizzles out a little bit. And you're like, what in the heck? What does this mean? What does this mean? It's got to mean something. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. No, that's not what it means. What it means is that you're nothing, actually. It means your body it's your body showing you that it cannot sustain that level of enthusiasm consistently. It's just not wired that way. If your hormones would go bananas. So it is going to ebb and flow, but that doesn't mean that just because you have a positive means you have to have a negative. It can be, it all depends on how you look at things, right? Okay. So, we're talking about surrender, as I've mentioned, and I just want to talk, before we talk about flow a little bit, mention, like, how do you, I could sit there and talk about, oh, you need to surrender to the moment and surrender to your feelings and surrender. What the heck does that mean? Right? Because that sounds to me like, if you meditate, then you're going to have a higher frequency and you're going to attract something higher and all this. And yeah, that is part of it. But what's the action step? And, for those of us who are a little more science sided, we need to have something that we can physically do and makes it something that is actionable. We need actionable steps. So, what are some things that you can do to surrender? One is to understand your feelings, and that they are feelings, and feelings come and go. They ebb and flow, up and down, here and not. They can flip on a dime. Literally, don't believe me? Win the lottery. Tell me if you're still depressed. You know what I'm saying? So your feelings, your emotions can literally change on a dime, depending on your outside stimulus. But what you can do is regulate how, like, your level of joy. Now, there's a difference between happiness and joy, because happiness is related to outside events. Joy is internally created, and nobody can take that from you. So, if man's search for meaning, Viktor Frankl can talk about, that he can not only survive the situation, but actually come out the other side of being in the concentration camps and still help people and, create this wonderful book. Oh my goodness. He wrote a million of them, but if he can do that, I'm sure losing your job in comparison isn't as big of a deal. So if he can keep his cool and his, whatever, then you can too. Now, here's the thing too, is that, we talk about, I heard this the other day in a coaching call and I really liked it. And it was talking about tears, coaching tears. So what you're striving for with surrender and what you're striving for with anything is there's different tiers. Okay. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, I can't do this when you're on the lowest one. So top tier, tier number one, top tier is you're doing all the things and everything is going, as swimmingly as possible. You're in flow. It doesn't matter if things are good or bad. You're okay. That is surrender 101. That is like 100%. Level 2, tier 2 is you're in and out of surrender. You're in and out of flow. It's, it's here, but it's not there all the time, but you're doing some of the things, which we're going to talk about. You're doing some of the things, but not all of the things, and, back and forth. That's tier 2. And tier 3 is you fell off and you're just caught up and led by your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and you have not surrendered. You want things a certain way, and you can only be okay if they fit the way that you think that they should. That is the antithesis of surrender. And here's the thing. You're never going to have everything the way you want it to be. Never, ever. There's always going to be some carrot that is dangled out in front of you that you're going to try and achieve and reach and all of that. And you're not going to be able to ever, if you're looking outside of yourself, ever be happy in that respect, because there's always going to be another level. And the shiny object always dulls and you need another one. So you really want to strive for tier 1, which is where you're in full surrender and flow mode. Okay. So now I was talking a little bit about what are some things you can do to surrender. A lot of it's mindset. Seriously, a lot of it is mindset. You've got to remind yourself that it's okay if you don't like a situation. And it's okay for you to be uncomfortable in a situation. That doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make you wrong. It's just is what it is. That's part of surrender. But some things that you can actually do to help calm yourself while you're in these moments that are not what you want. There is meditation always. You can go out for a nice walk and ground yourself in the dirt. If you're in Southern California, most of the time you can do that. If you're up north, maybe not so much right now, but get some fresh air, open the door for a moment, check things out. You could do that. Those are some things you can do. Journal about your feelings, get them out of your crazy, hamster wheel brain and get them out on paper. That's one of the best ways to do it. So you can do all of these things, all these stress relieving things to help yourself get in flow. Now, the other thing is saying yes. And this is why I want you to read the Surrender Experiment. Okay. What's his name? Michael Singer wouldn't have what he has if he hadn't just surrendered continuously. Now, the thing is that it doesn't always get easier. Sorry, I'm so itchy. Whenever I seem to do the show by myself, it's worse. Anyway, it doesn't seem to get better as far as trying to, I wouldn't say easier necessarily to surrender, as in easier, as in your feelings are less necessarily if it's not something that you want. However, you get more used to it and you can see through to the other side. So it does make it easier in that respect. So some of the things that, I like to think of as saying yes to life, what life throws your way. Now, you can't say yes to everything because then your energy is going to be every which way and you're going to be doing a bunch of things that you don't really want. But I'm going to give you an example of something that happened in, and I'm probably paraphrasing this wrong, but so for example, Michael Singer, he never intended to have this technology business, but it just sort of fell in his lap and he sort of went with it because that's kind of what was there for him. It's not what he imagined. All he was interested in was meditation and being in the trees and, doing all this stuff, all the woo woo stuff with his buddies and friends that came along the way. But this technology thing, he figured it out as it went along and he just kept growing and got bigger and bigger and bigger. That's a good example of surrendering to what's happening. I wouldn't have my own TV network if I didn't surrender to the moment. So, I could have held on to the idea of it's supposed to look this way and I wouldn't be here, but I didn't. I decided to let it go and let it flow. Another thing that he talks about is how, he built this property, like he had this property and one of his students, shall we say, decided to build herself a place on his property. And he was not pleased about it, but he allowed it to happen. And I can't remember exactly why. He was just trying to be in the moment and whatnot. It ended up being one of the best things ever for him. So you just never know if you don't say yes. So that's another way of surrendering, is by saying yes to things, even if it doesn't feel like it's something that you want necessarily, if it makes sense. Now, like, I know I said you can't say yes to everything, and you can't, and it's not good for you. However, you will know the difference between saying yes to people please and saying yes to yourself, even though it isn't what you think you want. There's a difference, right? Okay, so on that note, we do need to go to another commercial break. We're going to be back in just a minute.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer, and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And we are talking about surrender, i.e. flow, getting into flow. So we've been talking about the surrender bits, and now it's time to really dive into flow. I know I promised it before, but I got a little sidetracked on some of the other stuff that is actually very important. So anyway, let's talk about flow. What is flow? What does that mean? You hear it, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Being in flow, there's a few different ways that you can know. Like, one is like this calm joy that you feel inside of you. And another thing is just, it doesn't really matter what's going on. Like, it could, something that might set you off normally doesn't. Because you just have all the answers. It's just coming through you, like from the universe. Flow is all of a sudden knowing the answers. Have you ever taken a shower or gone on a run or something like that? And, as you've been mulling over this problem for however long you're trying to solve it. And and you just can't come up with something that's going to work. And all of a sudden, bam, it pops into your head while you're in the shower or you're running or you're coloring or whatever the case may be. Well, that's because you are allowing, you're getting out of your brain and into your subconscious, and it's doing the work, and it's doing, it's solving the problems for you. That's flow. Another way to tell is you don't know what time it is. You're not paying any attention whatsoever. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten or gone to the bathroom and it's been about 6 hours. What? Just because you're just so present to the moment. That is flow, is being present to the moment. It's when you notice things that you've just maybe you've seen, but you didn't see before. For example, this morning, maybe it was this morning, it could have been yesterday, I was walking across the street in front of where I live, in front of my townhouse, and I looked at the ground, and all of a sudden, for the first time ever, and I mean, I've crossed this, I can't even tell you, thousands of times, and I really, for like the first time, saw the stones. And I looked at like the colors of them and how they were, some of them are a little sparkly, and, the differences in, texture and all of these things. And it was just really weird. It was like time slowed down to nothing because it was just now. That is flow. That is what it is. That's what it feels like. It's fascinating because it's weird. All of a sudden it hits you. I remember one time I was drawing in Italy. I had an art class. I had some homework to do. And I'd been drawing for a while, and all of a sudden I had this thought, and I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't been thinking. It was the weirdest thing because that little internal voice is always yipping and yapping. It didn't say a word for a long time. And then all of a sudden it piped up and said, oh my gosh, I haven't had a thought. So, that's really what flow is. It is that moment of just relaxing, and instead of trying to paddle upstream, you are just riding the wave. You are in the river going down. Everything seems to be going in it doesn't have to be going the way you wanted to, but it seems to be moving forward. And that is really what flow is. And it's the more you can live in that state, the easier things are for you. The more, I don't know, more fun it is, the more, all the good things. For some reason, my words are escaping me right now. But anyway, how does one get into flow? Well, here's the tricky part. It's not something you can really, it's kind of elusive. It's like trying to catch air. It's there and you can experience it, but the harder you try for it and try and make it happen, the further away you are from it. So some of the things is surrendering to the moment. When you surrender to the moment and you are just experiencing what is and feeling your feels and all of these things, that is when flow all of a sudden comes. That's when all of these things, the answers come, everything. And why is flow good for you? Well, hello, you're not fighting what is. And the thing is, and I think this bears repeating, that when you are fighting life, fighting it on its terms, and wishing it was different and trying to like force a round peg into a square hole, for example, or a square peg into a round hole, all you're doing is creating friction and trouble for yourself. Now, like I said before too, it's not the same thing as when you are actually, changing things moving forward, but it's really accepting what is actually going on and being like, okay, this is what's going on. There's no resistance to what is going on. There's no, yeah, but, and that, you can still feel uncomfortable, but you can sit in that uncomfortability. That is surrendering. That is 100% it. And that's why it's not a swear word. That's why it is what it is. All right, everyone. I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you so much for watching, because if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here today and I wouldn't have my own network moving forward. So excited about that. And that's going to look a little bit different with Own Your Wellness. We're going to be reformatting again. I will not be a talking head on Mondays for much longer. We are probably going to be bringing in some guest hosts like that, doing basically interviewing as well. But I would love to hear from everyone what they think they would like to see. Let's see here. Let me pop up my information so that you guys can reach out to me directly. There we go. It would be really great to hear from you and hear what your thoughts are about, what you want to see on Achieve TV. In case you didn't gather, it is a television network for entrepreneurs. And we are featuring some really amazing shows. There's going to be Simply Sarah, the show by Sarah Stockham. There is going to be a mental health show by Kelly Reinhardt. And there's going to be a show by Charlie Stivers, who is going to be focusing on Bitcoin and AI. How exciting. There's going to be another one about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, not the fluffy fun side. I'm a billionaire because no, the dark side. We've got a lawyer that's coming on to do a show as well, and he has some really amazing guests and a lot of fun. Then there's the Life Hack Show. He's going to be on this, Joel Evans. He actually has a podcast right now. So he's switching over, joining the team. He's going to be a part of this family here. Very excited about that. So you guys are going to have a lot of people, new shows to possibly watch besides this one that are in alignment with everything that we try and present here. So be sure to catch us on Achieve TV. And that's going to be through E360 TV. You know how there's different genres, shall we say, on the channel already. Like you can find me under health and wellness or health and beauty, I think it is. And yeah, you'll be able to find this show under Achieve TV. All right, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to end a little bit early because I think we talked about it and I don't think we need to keep the show going even just because. So, well, I'm excited to say on Thursday, Dr. Heather Brown. We're going to have Dr. Heather Brown on. Let me mention that too. She is a relationship expert and a communications expert. And I'm excited to have this conversation with her because we're talking about something similar. You are not stuck. You are not stuck. It's just your perception. So we'll be talking about how to unstuck your non-stuck self. Anyway, everyone, enjoy your week and we will see you on Thursday.